Have you ever stopped to think you might be watched inside your own home? There are hidden spots where older adults are being monitored without realizing it, and today you'll find out what they are. Mental health is the foundation of independence after 60. But how do you protect your mind when your privacy is at risk? Alert to seniors, you're being watched in places you never imagined, and almost always without noticing. Gavin, at 75, learned this the hard way. For him, simple moments, laughing with his grandkids or chatting with his wife, were the secret to happiness. But when he started noticing strange signs inside his own house, he felt as if his peace was being invaded without his consent. He discovered that even privacy can be threatened, but he also learned that choosing to live with joy and good humor is a powerful decision after 60. This channel is brand new and was created to share stories like his, intense, moving, and full of meaning, that will touch your heart and strengthen your mind. If this message spoke to you, subscribe now and walk with us on this journey of courage and renewal. It all started with a simple conversation over breakfast. Gavin and his wife were talking about an apple pie recipe. That afternoon, his phone showed ads for special flour, spices, and kitchen tools. At first, he tried to laugh it off. The universe is conspiring, he joked. But his restless mind wouldn't let it go. Days later, while organizing his medications and mentioning knee pain, the TV displayed recommendations for treatments and health plans. That no longer seemed like coincidence. It felt as if the home, that sacred space of protection, had become transparent to invisible eyes. To preserve his own peace of mind, Gavin started testing. One time, he quietly mentioned gardening gloves, size G, with no intention of buying anything. Hours later, detailed ads popped up on his browser. His heart raced. It was proof that something was listening. This discovery shook his trust in his home environment. Silence, once a source of rest, now carried a strange sense of surveillance. Could small technological intrusions steal the joy of living after 60? Seeking clarity, he started a notebook. He wrote down the time, the topic he'd spoken about, and the ads that appeared afterward. Writing became a mental anchor, keeping anxiety from turning into paranoia. The method revealed patterns. Whenever he spoke near certain devices, the coincidences increased. That awareness gave him back some control and calmed the anxiety threatening to take root. One small story during this time stood out even more. Lucas, a close friend, told him he'd mentioned perfumes during a private conversation, and that same day, ads for that exact brand showed up on his computer screen. Lucas's story acted like a mirror. Gavin realized the problem wasn't just his, it affected many in his generation, vulnerable because they assumed technology existed only to bring people closer. The emotional impact was deep. He stopped discussing medical topics out loud, afraid of seeing targeted ads about illnesses. He avoided talking finances with his wife, not wanting to feel invaded by aggressive offers. It was as if the intimacy of home had shrunk. His mind, once light, now carried the pressure of constant self-monitoring. At this point, mental health became his absolute priority. To protect himself, Gavin created bedtime rituals, deep breathing, reviewing the day's events, and naming his emotions: surprise, irritation, fatigue. Putting names to feelings lessened their weight and helped him stay balanced. His grandson Justin's support was also essential. After hearing the stories and seeing the notes, Justin said, "You did the right thing writing it down. It shows you're paying attention." That validation strengthened Gavin, reminding him that caring for his mind also meant accepting help and sharing doubts. This first chapter of his journey didn't bring all the answers, but it revealed a crucial point: when an older adult protects their mental health, they gain the courage to face even the invisible. Gavin realized the problem was real, and that, in the face of any threat, preserving mental clarity is the first step to holding on to dignity. Jason had always been the friend Gavin turned to when technology was involved. Retired from an IT company, Jason had patience and a curious eye for details most people overlooked. When Gavin told him about the strange ads and showed him the notebook, Jason frowned. He asked to check the smart TV in the living room, the same one where the grandkids gathered to watch cartoons and where the couple enjoyed old movies on weekends. The investigation started simply, accessing the device's settings. Jason showed that the TV had its microphones and camera enabled, even though no one had turned them on. Hidden in the settings, there was information showing that data was being sent to distant servers. Gavin froze. The device he associated with family laughter might have been recording the most ordinary conversations, turning every chat into commercial data. The shock brought a deep sense of violation. He remembered how many times he'd talked about pains, travel plans, or even private details near the TV. His mind raced, almost like a movie playing in reverse. What he once saw as mere entertainment now had another face, an open window for strangers. Jason didn't stop there. He explained that many apps installed on the TV acted as data collectors. While offering shows, music, or games, they also sent information about usage habits, times the TV was turned on, even personal preferences. Gavin felt a chill run through his body. Every choice he made was being watched, as if an invisible crowd were sitting right beside him on the couch. For Gavin, this went beyond the technical issue. It was about trust. He had always believed his home was his sanctuary, the place where he could speak openly about fears, dreams, and joys without filters. Discovering that his own television had silently participated in those conversations shook that certainty. More than fear of exposure, what hurt was the loss of that feeling of safety. That same afternoon, Jason gave instructions: disable the microphones, block the camera, and disconnect the TV from the internet when not in use. Gavin followed each step, but his mind still felt heavy. Even with the adjustments, the memory that the device had already heard too much wouldn't leave his thoughts. To find relief, he turned to a simple practice. He took out the guitar he hadn't touched in years and played an old song he used to sing to his wife. The music filled the room and brought back the feeling of owning his space. It was as if he was telling himself, "My voice is mine, not theirs." That small act became resistance, a reminder that caring for mental health also means reclaiming symbols of freedom. That night, Gavin fell asleep with a restless thought: if the TV, an object meant for leisure, had already become a threat, what else in his home might be hiding secrets? The question remained open, pulsing in his mind, ready to reveal the next layer of this unsettling discovery. Every conscious act is a reminder that privacy is an essential part of dignity. Gavin's phone had always been an ally, the tool he used to talk to his children and grandchildren scattered across the country. It was where he received birthday photos, quick good morning messages, even video calls that made him feel closer to family. But after the TV incident, he began looking at the device differently. If a television could turn his living room into a surveillance point, what about a device he carried in his pocket all day long? The first clue came when Gavin mentioned to his wife he was thinking about getting new glasses. Minutes later, his phone displayed ads for opticians, multifocal lenses, and even appointments at nearby clinics. His stomach turned. He decided to show Justin, his 22-year-old grandson who understood the digital world better. Justin took the phone, opened the app list, and began explaining something Gavin had never imagined. Many of those apps, downloaded innocently, requested permissions far beyond what was necessary: access to contacts, real-time location, microphone, even browsing history. "Grandpa, these apps don't need all that. They use your information to build a profile of you and sell it to companies," Justin said. The words hit like stones. Gavin realized what he thought was just entertainment or convenience was, in fact, a window into his own life. He remembered how many times he'd spoken about health issues, his desire to visit old cities, or his fear of falling alone at home. Now, every conversation seemed catalogued on some distant server, turned into advertisements. It wasn't just invasion, it was manipulation, because suddenly his choices felt less spontaneous and more pushed by screens that knew his desires before he even voiced them. His mental health, so precious to him, began to waver. The phone, which should have been a bridge to affection, now felt like a threat. He thought of elderly neighbors, many with no idea how to adjust privacy settings. He imagined how many could become easy targets for scams, with personal data slipping into strangers' hands. Fear left its mark, but it also sparked a need in him, to understand, to protect himself, and to teach others to do the same. Justin helped his grandfather review permissions, delete useless apps, and activate privacy tools. The process felt liberating. With each deletion, Gavin took a deep breath, as if he were clearing not just the phone's memory, but his own mind too. In the end, the phone felt lighter, and so did he. But the lesson stuck. Even the device that held photos and memories could be used as a doorway for strangers. From that day on, Gavin never looked at his phone the same way again. It was useful, it was practical, but it demanded vigilance, and above all, the courage not to be trapped by something that was meant only to bring connection. The conversation with Marcus opened an even deeper wound in Gavin's mind. He was already shaken by the TV and phone revelations, but hearing that even the street where he walked was covered in cameras brought an unprecedented sense of exposure. Marcus told him he'd received a strange notification. His face appeared in a database used by marketing companies. It was as if every step, every trip to the bakery or visit to the park, was being tracked and filed away somewhere he couldn't access. Gavin listened in silence, breathing heavily, trying to absorb the idea that everyday life had become a display window. For a man who had always valued freedom, this news weighed like an invisible chain. He remembered Sunday walks, when he felt light, reflecting on life while watching children play in the park. Now, that memory felt tainted. Who else might have been watching besides the neighbors? What kind of use would they make of those recordings? His mental health, which already required effort to keep balanced, now faced one more constant pressure: the loss of the right to anonymity. And it didn't stop there. Marcus revealed that home virtual assistants, those small devices that seemed harmless, were recording private conversations. Several families had already discovered intimate dialogues archived on remote servers. Gavin felt a chill. How many times had he spoken about fears, pains, and dreams inside his own home, believing he was protected? It was painful to imagine that even those moments had been recorded and possibly analyzed by strangers. Have you ever wondered if those most personal conversations, spoken in the comfort of your own home, might have been recorded without your permission? It was at this point that Kevin, another friend, added yet another disturbing piece to the puzzle. He said that after searching for travel information online, he began receiving aggressive ads for vacation packages, even phone calls offering exclusive deals. Personal questions, typed in seconds, were being turned into sales opportunities. Gavin listened and realized this wasn't just about object spying, it was an entire system turning private lives into products. Each revelation seemed to steal a little more of the sense of safety he fought so hard to preserve. Home, streets, even his own thoughts expressed in online searches, everything could be tracked, archived, exploited. This awareness brought an emotional weight no technical manual could ease. Gavin understood the threat wasn't just to his privacy, but to the dignity of growing old with freedom. An older person's mind needs serenity to nurture joy and health, but how do you keep that serenity when even thoughts typed on a screen become merchandise? That day, the conversation ended in silence. Gavin returned home feeling as if the world had shrunk. Places that used to be spaces of rest and movement now revealed themselves as minefields of surveillance. The question echoing in his mind was unavoidable: if even the most ordinary places were compromised, where could one still live in peace? Mental health is one of the greatest treasures of aging. After 60, it's not just about well-being, it's the foundation that supports independence, memory, and the joy of living. Gavin knew this. He always said keeping a balanced mind was as important as caring for the body. But the conversation with Marcus tested that balance in an unexpected way. Marcus explained that public cameras, scattered throughout the neighborhood streets, were already recording every face and linking those images to commercial databases. The news hit like a heavy blow. For someone who'd always seen his morning walk as an exercise in freedom, discovering that every step was being watched made even the air feel heavier. Gavin reflected, how do you keep your mind calm when even a trip to the grocery store could become data to be sold? The impact deepened when Marcus spoke about home virtual assistants like Alexa and Google Home. Devices that seemed like simple conveniences were recording intimate conversations from entire families. Gavin felt the ground shake inside him. His home, always seen as a refuge, now seemed to have lost its cloak of privacy. That feeling eroded something fundamental: trust. And without trust, the mind fills with vigilance and exhaustion, stealing away the lightness an older adult needs to cultivate. Kevin, another friend, completed the picture with yet another revelation. He shared that simple internet searches, about travel, for example, turned into personalized ads and even persistent phone calls. What should have been mere curiosity was being used to shape choices, push decisions, and invade mental spaces that should have been protected. Gavin realized it wasn't just object spying, it was an entire system turning lives into commodities. This accumulation of discoveries didn't just affect the practical side of life. It struck Gavin's mind directly, awakening anxiety and discomfort. His mental health, once sustained by light-hearted conversations and small calming routines, now had to carry the weight of suspicion. Maintaining serenity in the face of so many invisible eyes felt like a daily challenge. Still, Gavin understood that recognizing this problem was the first step toward protecting his own dignity. Because, in the end, aging with mental health means defending the mind against everything that threatens to steal your sense of peace and freedom. Just as Gavin discovered that even inside his own home he needed to protect his mind and reclaim his freedom, this channel is new and was created to remind you that after 60, true strength lies in choosing peace, joy, and love. If this story spoke to you, subscribe and share it. And get ready for the next videos. Each one may awaken in you a new spark of courage and hope.